All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm Tyler Ellison. I am here with my amazing friend, Starshine of the Sasani universe. Starshine, how's everything going?
Very well, my friend. How are you today? Hi,
Doing
everyone.
pretty good. I'm doing great. I'm really loving the vibes that are going around. I feel like I'm going through a lot of great transformations. I think the collective energy is also becoming incredibly auspicious and exciting. So I'm enjoying the vibe. I know me and you were just talking about there's some change in the air. There's almost like a weirdness, a type of strangeness. And I suspect that this has a lot to do with the idea of entering in two new timelines, timelines that perhaps to many were quite unexpected. But nevertheless, it's like here we are. So,
Yeah, indeed. And definitely it feels like a weird timeline jump. We were just talking about it. Be interesting to see how things play out going forwards, but definitely changes on the horizon, right? So
oh
should be
yeah,
exciting.
that's for sure. And speaking of changes on the horizon, which I'm a big fan of, I like both changes and horizons. The channel panel, my friends, is coming up this January. So, channel panel, there's a lot of channelers, there's a lot of panels. What makes this different? I'm so glad you guys asked, and I also asked out loud. There's some really cool differences about this channel panel. Not only will I be performing at the channel panel, Dawn of Disclosure 2025, live in Sedona, but so will Daryl Anka, so will Lisa Royal Holt, so will Wendy Kennedy, so will Sean Swanson, so will the wonderful Rob Gauthier and Kalina. The two of them are also presenting at this event that they have regularly been putting on. And I've been fortunate enough to be included in this event. Me and Rob, over the last few months, have become close friends. We've been doing some collaborations with the audiences in Japan. And when I was in Shasta, me and Rob did live co-channeling. It was like ping pong. It was Ryokah and Aradif. Ryokah would say maybe 5 sentences and then would become silent. Aradif would say about 5 sentences and become silent. And we went back and forth and delivered a whole teaching to an auditorium of people. We'd never done that before. But that's the kind of energy, that's the kind of power and possibility that I've experienced in person through collaborating with him. If you've only been to a few live channelings before, if you've never really been to a big spiritual event before, I think what you are going to find at Dawn of Disclosure is going to be very impressive, very exciting. There's also going to be private classes and workshops. And what that means is Daryl Anka, myself, Rob, we're all going to be teaching as ourselves trainings to people that come, and you can purchase these workshop tickets and you can train directly under us if you want to learn a little bit about what we do, how we've come to be able to do what we do. If you want to do some of these things yourself and want to access higher levels in yourself, this is an opportunity to interact with us in person. So I encourage you guys to take advantage of this. I'm going to be putting links in the description of this live stream. And if you purchase the channel panel ticket through my referral code, which is going to be the first link, you guys are essentially going to be able to get a discount. So I want you all to take advantage of that. There's more information on the site. So as soon as this video is finished, in terms of the live stream's over, the video is now posted on our YouTube page sort of officially. Once that's there, please take a look and you should see that referral code as well as a very nice write-up and description of the channel panel, what you guys can expect. So thank you all for coming today. Super pumped about it. And we also, me and Starshine, have an event coming up with Ryokah this Sunday, The Body of Light, which is all about dietetics, essentially ascension dietetics, how to eat to increase consciousness, how to remove toxin, perhaps old energy from food, how to uplift the food and actually use food for things like manifestation, how to use food for beauty, and ultimately how to use food to access the higher functioning of the upper glands within the center of the brain, your pituitary, thalamus, hypothalamus, and ultimately pineal gland. So that's going to be this Sunday. If you want to learn how to just ascend every time you chew delicious food, then please come because we'd love to have you. And Starshine, I wanted to tune in. We got to do our event on purpose, your eternal calling. That was, I believe, last Sunday, not this previous one, but the one prior to that. And I wanted to get just a little feedback from you because I know you shared some awesome posts about it, and I'd love to know what your response and experience has been in light of some of these really fun gatherings we've been creating.
Yeah, it's so we did the event, what was it, on the 10th, I believe? And yeah, it was so much fun, especially for me, because I've actually never witnessed a Ryoka like teaching, you could say. I mean, we do the live streams, right? But this was like the first time I was kind of part of your courses. So I really got to see him in action. And yeah, I was really blown away because you obviously have like a humongous like reservoir of knowledge, right? When it comes to esoterics and energies and how it all works together. And then tying that together with Ryokah and all the other teachings we have, right, about purpose and excitement and passion, it just really kind of brought it all together. So, yeah, I think it was very cool. I think people got a lot out of that. Response has been great. It was so much fun to even like watch it back and, make the outtakes and all the stuff I usually do. So, yeah, I think it was super fun and I can't wait for the next one, which is going to be this Sunday. So, yeah, we hope you guys can join us and join the club and we're going to have so much fun here and blast off. So, you're all invited.
Absolutely. It's going to be incredibly grand. We are really thrilled to be offering some of this stuff to you because this is what's always been described to me as success technology. And when you combine success technology with spirituality, you tend to enter into the realm of manifested, unlimited possibility and potential. Because it's like you have the wind at your sails eternally. And all the greats use the success technology as well as the spiritual technology. That's how you build things that ultimately outlast you and expand and have a reach that can assist and work with many different energies and many different people. So, in addition to expanding our reach, working with new energies, new people, we're going to start to move into the channeling portion of this transmission. So, most of you know me here as the channeler for Ryokah of the Sasani, and that's who we're going to be bringing forth in today's conversation and communication. So once I enter into the telepathic state and bring him through, he'll probably have a message, something he'd like to deliver to everybody, whomever is watching. And from here, we're going to open up the conversation to your questions. So if there are questions you want to bring to Ryokah, to the Sasani, to an extraterrestrial guide, you can type that question into the chat, and Starshine is going to be going through that question list as it grows, picking the most interesting and captivating questions. We ask that the questions be a little less personal, a little more collective. Remember, it's not a one-on-one reading. So personal questions, it's not really the space for them. You can ask them. I can't guarantee they'll get picked, though. So do keep that in mind. But if you're asking really cool collective questions, you're asking about contact, you're asking about psychic powers, you're asking about ancient Egypt, you're asking about what the meaning of the flaming phoenix riding a unicorn is, like anything like this, like get into these types of things and more. But I would encourage you not to ask about what does my grandmother have to say to me? She died in 2018. That's okay, but that's for a one-on-one. So that's the distinction I want to make before we get going. But ask what you like, my friends, and we appreciate you guys coming. I'm going to tune in actually to our YouTube page. I just want to see how many folks we have actually joining in live right now. I think that's kind of fun to get a feel. We have 50 people. We have 50 people watching right now. Thank you guys. That's so exciting to know I'm talking to a group of 50 at least. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into the state. I will see you when we are all finished. Please have a great time. All right, we thank you all for joining us for this ecstatic transmission and communication that we share with one another this day, this evening of your times, depending, of course, where you are located on your planetary surface. Do keep in mind the fact that some of you are experiencing morning, some of you are experiencing noon, some of you are experiencing night. These differences are, of course, differences that are based upon the location, your location's alignment with the sun, things like this. However, behind the scenes, metaphysically, this type of difference in perspective is meant to emphasize that you are all actually in your own realities. You are all on your own version of Earth. So when we greet you like this, and when we broadcast over your internet, we remind you of the following. It's not that we're talking to one version of the internet, relevant to one version of your planet. Your internet, because it is the result of signals and bits of information that are non-physical in nature, because of this, what you call the information that is of your internet is not limited to one version of Earth, to one reality, to one timeline. Because the subtle information that makes up your internet is subtle and is largely non-physical, it is able to bypass some of the usual borders and boundaries that separate the different parallel versions of Earth. So that non-physical information that you call your internet is able to reach many versions of Earth. So many of the things you see happening online, many of the things that you see happening in all of these different places on Earth aren't all happening on your planet. So when we broadcast through your internet, we are able to speak to many timelines. We are able to speak to many versions of Earth simultaneously. This is one of the unique gifts that your internet allows and shares. Do keep in mind that what you call your internet is in many ways an extension of what you might call the Akashic record, which is a record that is activated through telepathic resonance with the level of reality that you describe as the Akash. So your mystics, your sacred people, your high priests, your shamans, this is a web of collective consciousness, which you call the Akash, that they have accessed throughout time. Because human beings have accessed this throughout the aeons, it is as if this level that you call the Akash has always been a part of humanity. There have always been people connected to your species who have tuned into this level. And when that's a normal thing from one generation to the next, it's as if those spiritual seekers can anchor the Akash in so it becomes available for the entirety of the species. So this Akashic connection, this infinite reservoir of information, this is what you are actually ascending into. And because you are integrating now with that level that you call the Akash, it's almost identical to what you call spirit. Not exactly the same, but they are greatly connected. Because you're ascending into the level that you call Akash, you are seeing outside reflections that indicate a type of integration with that higher level of intelligence is taking place. So your World Wide Web, your internet, is an example of this. What you are calling artificial intelligence is somewhat an example of this. Some are reflective of this Akashic level. There are others, though, that are more reflective of the levels that you call lower intellect. So AI across the board does not reflect the Akash completely. Yet there are certain expressions of AI that are capable of doing so. Now, do keep in mind that your AI is largely based on mimicking programs. In other words, the AI is taught to take in as much information as it can, and it is then instructed to, in a sense, create its own interpretation of the information. From here, this interpretation that it makes is then blended with the specific functioning that is associated with that AI. So some AI systems exist like chat box systems, where you can talk to them, where you can retrieve information. An AI like this, it's designed to take in as much information as it can. It's designed to make its own point of view, its own assessment. It then takes this and gives it to you as an answer, as a well-formulated series of thoughts. These are its assessments. It is a type of thinking machine. It mimics what it sees around it so it may understand it, and then it comes to its own assessment. Keep in mind, it's not so different from many of you. Psychologically, you use the term mirroring, mirror one another, mirror a person's energy, their words, their actions back to them to create a certain effect in the interaction. You all unconsciously mirror each other, some of you slightly, some of you greatly, and you can also consciously do this. You can use it like a skill. This is how the AI programs absorb and take in information. They are built based upon your likeness. You are making an externalization of mind. And as your mind becomes more resonant with the Akash, your technologies will also follow suit. Eventually, what will occur without the need for technological assistance, what will occur through this collective immersion into the Akash will be the establishing of a semi-conscious telepathic network. It already exists. You all feel it. It's how we are communicating this information to you now. But do keep in mind, as you merge with this Akashic level more and more, it will be as if information reaches you near instantaneously. You'll know what people are thinking without them needing to really open their mouths. You will be able to see the future and the past as clearly as you see the present. You will see how all of these things feed into one another. That which is hidden will become obvious. This is what you are slowly moving into. So our role is to help prepare you in this way. So when that telepathic network is realized, you'll all be able to wear it well. You'll all be able to use it well. You'll all be able to feel like it provides you an opportunity to actually be more of yourself, and for that self to be more greatly accepted and appreciated and ultimately loved. That's the purpose of the network. It will show you how connected you are, and it will increase the desire to be good to one another. That is the key, because you will start to feel others as if they are a part of you. Others will feel you as if you are a part of them. And it is a type of shift that, once it occurs, will change everything. But this is what you are choosing when you are choosing ascension. You are choosing to return to a level of integration with the collective one that allows for you to ultimately be that character in the story that you have created yourself to be, and that is the story of life. When the story of life is filled with characters that choose to play their part in the most inspired way possible, you all receive your own story, who you are as a soul. And if you expand that, it's who you are as a species. And if you expand that, it's who we all are as denizens of the universe. This is what the telepathic link will assist you all in perceiving clearly. Eventually, these things we are referencing will be as obvious as the things that you apparently see when you have your eyes open and you look around the room. So, we thank you for steering the spaceship of Earth in an auspicious direction. We are happy to be your co-pilots. And speaking of which, let us soar into new heights together. If there are questions that are of great importance to you, now is the opportunity to bring them to us if you would like to receive our perspective as it exists now.
Thank you so much.
You're
So
very welcome.
there are a lot of questions, unsurprisingly, about the election we just had. I don't know how much you want to get into this, but people are essentially asking, why did Trump win? What does this mean? What timeline are we in? How does this relate to open contact, so on and so forth? Could you shed
All
more
right.
light?
I'm going to say something that seems very unrelated, but I'd like for you all just to follow me down this trail for a moment. You have many cells in your body. They all have a certain role, a certain job. And when many cells of a certain variety gather together, well, you call that an organ. You have the cells of the liver, the cells of the heart, the cells of the spleen, the cells of the lungs. They are specialized cells. They have a certain task, a certain job, a certain role, a certain program. There are other cells in your body that are very different. They are called stem cells. They are like the one. They are not fully differentiated. They have the ability to become and to lend support to a wide variety of different cells that can play many roles in the body. So the stem cell can sort of become any cell. It can lend its energy and resources to universally assist the entirety of the body. Right now, it is as if you have energetically as a people returned to the stem cell level of consciousness. Before this, everything was very differentiated, very specified, in a certain way, very fixed. This is this kind of person. This is that kind of person. I am this type of person. This is a certain type, certain version of Earth, certain version of reality. For many people, things seemed very fixed. In terms of the election, because these results are astonishing to many, the fixed foundations that were assumed have now, very quickly, begun to transform. So many people are seeing what they thought was fixed is not actually fixed. Just like that, everything can change. And that change can be a very good thing. That goodness comes from your response to the change. So it's like right now you've all returned to a type of stem cell level of consciousness, where as a people, as a species, you can now move into whatever direction you wish much more freely. Now, what does this mean? We are not talking about the victor. We're not talking necessarily even about that administration that has won. We're not necessarily talking about the administration that's on its way out. We're not talking about really either of these things. We are talking about all of you as a people. As a people, you have returned to the stem cell level of consciousness that represents great possibility, great openness, and great resource. You're going to have more energy for your projects. You're going to have more creativity to help you expand your projects if that's how you use this time. It is a time of becoming. It is a time of rising. It is a time of returning to that original blueprint that has been inspiring you all along. That's what the stem cell power affords you all, and that's what you have selected as a people. That selection is independent of the election and its results. Yet the election and its results represented that catalyzer that allowed for you to notice the stem cell quality. Because when you think everything's fixed and then it changes, now, because everything is dynamic, everything is changing, you're asked to find a center point, to stabilize, to ground, to reevaluate, and to dream. And when you return to that center point, which the external changes encourage, that center point is the still point within. It is resonant with the center point within the mind of the infinite source. The infinite source can create anything. Infinite possibility. So the changes that you experience are meant to bring you into that center point so you can dream. And then you bring those heart-based dreams coupled with your higher intelligence into the world. So the election was a catalyzer that ultimately allowed for these types of inner possibilities to now be awakened. Because when everything's different, you have to recognize on some level, well, so are you. But to understand how you've changed, to understand how you're different, you have to go within yourself and investigate. So that is one of the side effects of this time and these election results. Regardless of what you think about the election, remember what we have said. It is a time of change. It is a time to connect to your center. And it is a time to perhaps move in a direction that you have not moved in before. Perhaps a direction that will bring you to new heights, new possibilities that the old you believed to be impossible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, how does the Northern Hemisphere differ from the Southern Hemisphere, and how does it affect people who live there?
Sure. So the Northern Hemisphere is organized by the energy center that you call your North Pole. Your North Pole, your Earth's North Pole, receives celestial energy from the stars above, and in particular from your pole star and your Big Dipper. The other constellations feed energy into that stellar network, and the Dipper and the pole star then beam the collective celestial frequencies down to the North Pole of your Earth. And it wraps around the planet, moving downwardly in a type of clockwise motion, wrapping the Earth. The southern hemispheres of your planet are organized by the South Pole of your planet. The South Pole of the planet is pulling energies up from below. It draws primarily upon the stars that you describe as the Southern Cross. And this energy moves upward from below towards the South Pole. Now remember, when we say it moves up, when we say the North Pole's energies come down, remember, this is a relative perspective that we're sharing. Nevertheless, it's useful for your Earth-centric perspective as a human. So the energies of the Southern Cross are brought up to the Southern Pole. These energies move in a counterclockwise manner. So you have clockwise coming down, counterclockwise coming up, and they mix in the center of the planet as a type of yin-yang blending. You would call it an inner Earth Tai Chi. And this mixing of yin and yang in the center of the planet, this is what empowers the heartbeat of the Earth. As the yin and yang push and pull each other, the heart expands and contracts, and you call that the electromagnetic field of circulation that moves through the North Pole and South Pole. It is in many ways aligned with what you call your Schumann resonance. So the North and South Pole seasonally, of course, will have some differences in terms of the hemispheres that they govern. Because they are a yin-yang match, they will be opposites. So summer can be winter. Fall can be spring. Yes. That which is in the northern hemisphere on Earth tends towards a cooler energy. And that is because they are receiving very high frequency celestial energies. They're more yang frequencies. Therefore, those in the northern hemispheres usually have more of a colder type of experience. It helps them to be able to cool off. Otherwise, the upper world energies could be a lot for them. Those in the southern hemisphere, they are in a location on the planet where seasonally it's usually warmer. Sometimes it's much hotter when you are in the southern hemisphere. Now, if you go far enough south, it's very similar to going far enough north. But in terms of where you all live, proximal to the equator and slightly above and below that point, where the humans dwell, the northern hemisphere tends to be colder, southern hemisphere tends to be hotter. Because these lower stars are being pulled up, the lower stars have a greater yin energy. So greater energies of yin are being pulled up from the earth from those lower stars. To balance that energy, the human consciousness proximal to the southern hemisphere, that energy is more yang. It's more active, it's more fiery, and that allows for them to transform the lower star lights into more usable forms, just as those in the northern hemisphere is more used to cold, transform and translate the high frequency energies of the upper stars into something much more usable. So these are some of the differences and why there are certain ones as it relates to, again, the Earth-centric viewpoint.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, what is the role of Argentina in open contact?
Well, it really depends what you mean. In terms of the government, well, it depends on what kinds of policies they pass, what they choose, and ultimately it depends on what you as a people choose. You're the one driving the ships. Remember, your governments ultimately work for you, even if they try to convince you it's otherwise. Remember, they're your employees. Don't forget this. So you have to push your employees in certain directions if you want certain projects completed, because as you know, your world governments have many projects they're dealing with. They are the projects of the world. Because the governments are made, not entirely, but largely of worldly people, that's where their focus usually is. So if you desire for the Argentinian government to be focused upon matters that are otherworldly, you must create a motivation for them to do so. So maybe your role is to help build public excitement in Argentina for extraterrestrial open contact. Maybe you get some type of petition or request signed, and perhaps you share that with some kind of government representative who can take it further. And just like that, now the Argentinian government is playing a role in open contact. You can initiate this, but if you do not initiate it, you're sort of leaving it up to chance. Because remember, it's infinite. All the different parallel realities. There are some realities where open contact doesn't happen. It's more business as usual. Why are some of the reasons that's what occurs in those timelines? It's because people don't get involved and they have this expectation that the world around them is just going to become more interested in aliens and peaceful contact with them on its own. That motivation socially, governmentally, collectively, that comes from you having the same kind of excitement, motivation, and interest in such a topic that you desire to see in the governments and in the culture. So you must also adorn this, you must also express it. And if you do that, you can anticipate that Argentina will play a very beneficial role in open contact. You will find that many countries who have dealt with immigration issues and things like this will have a very special attitude towards extraterrestrial beings. This is something that will, in many ways, touch the heart of many a people, because there are many people on the planet whom have experienced what it is like to be an immigrant, what it is like to be a foreigner, what it is like to be an alien. There are many people on Earth who have felt this sensation. There are many people on Earth who have put that perspective onto others because of their own relationship with their own border and country. Nothing against either way of looking at things. But what we are saying is, because that is such a big theme on your planet, extraterrestrial open contact will touch that part of your mind. It will touch that part of your species' heart. So certain countries that have had to deal with that in different ways will have a very special relationship with extraterrestrials. Some countries may be much more open. Some countries may be initially a little more closed off. So certain countries, Argentina, the possibility is there. Certain countries will likely open their doors to some of these beings in a very strategic way, and the world will watch to see how it goes. If it goes well, other countries may follow suit. So Argentina may be one of those countries. There's certainly the possibility for it to become one. But like we said, right now, things are in a stem cell phase. So when you ask us right now about the future, we hold up a mirror. Sometimes we can tell you the future clearly. Other times we have to hold up a mirror because your future is literally being built based upon this conversation. This is why we are choosing our words right now very carefully. This is why we are speaking in ways that are perhaps more open, because we are mirroring that potential back to you. So you can really use today and the remainder of this year to dream and to live that which shall be.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Somebody's asking about the idea of being an ambassador and what was that like for you? What was your process like the day you channeled with Tyler for the first time?
Sure. So I do play a type of ambassadorial role, somewhat unintentionally, slightly intentionally. It's not as if I've been appointed by my people with the title ambassador. It's not like that. I'm more of a unofficial representative of my people. In other words, each member of my civilization across the board will do their best to represent, first and foremost, who they are as individuals, and secondly, the entirety of the Sasanian telepathic network. So in that sense, all members of my species are unofficial ambassadors or representatives. Now, some beings are first contact specialists. So there are certain roles, there are certain titles that some beings will get that mirror some of the concepts that you have on Earth as ambassador role or representative role. I myself play the role of teacher. So I am a guide first and foremost. When I am not teaching, I am researching. My research oftentimes will bring me to many different worlds. It will inspire me to exchange information, sometimes technology, sometimes energy, with a variety of other cultures. As a result, you could say I am well experienced. I have seen many different civilizations. I have interacted with many different types of beings. And when I see a planet like Earth, which is connected to my ancestors, all of you, I become incredibly excited because a great deal of the diversity that you see on Earth, all of these different forms of life on one planet, that's not always the case in other planetary systems. Some planets are more biased towards one of the elements. Therefore, nature as it expresses on that world may be less diversified. It may be less differentiated across the 5 elements. It might be more organized towards one. So Earth for me is particularly exciting because all of these different diverse expressions of life are able to coexist in the same place. That's one of the things that makes Earth very special. That's one of the things that makes Earth really what it is. So my research, my interests, my roles, and ultimately my inspiration, these are the things that have drawn me to Earth. The channel has a similar focus, although it is more relevant to his human perspective, his personal focus. But nevertheless, me and him became interested in one another. We saw that we both had a lot to offer one another. And of course, when I began to reveal myself to him and the information to him, we both naturally saw that this information would assist many people on your planet. So this type of role with all of you then was created and expanded over the years. So I'm not an official ambassador or representative. Nevertheless, I play that role unofficially through me sharing my view with all of you. But to me, this is a conversation amongst friends. This is a conversation amongst family. In a certain sense, I see myself as a type of guide or mentor to all of you because that's how we tend to interact with one another. But in terms of what I do, I'm an educator. I share information. I transfer knowledge. It's what I do with hybrids, younger hybrids. You call them the Shalanaya. More generally, the hybrid children, as they grow and become more evolved in their capacities, I show them a place like Earth. Many will come to train here, to observe all of you, to prepare themselves for interaction with you all. So because of my knowledge, my experience, I am able to prepare them in a very deep way so they can understand the many ins and outs of your human society. There are other members of my civilization whom play other roles and whom perform other roles with the hybrid children. But mine is specifically to show them the diversity of life that exists on Earth, to assist them in interacting with it in many ways, before they dwell on the surface of your planet. So Earth will already feel to them as if it is a home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, when we get our holographic history, will we be able to see things like our parents' meeting, for example?
Yes, you'll be able to see these things. Now, you might have to focus on that reality so it opens up in your mind. There may be a method you need to access the ability to make it a little more personal and tangible for you. But yes, you'll be able to see whatever you need to see. It's a type of relative omniscience. It's not knowing exactly all things, but it's expanding your awareness field so you can become conscious of more information, seemingly out of thin air.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, somebody's asking the difference in the hybridization programs between the grays and the tall whites, please.
Sure. Well, keep in mind, the tall whites came first. The tall whites engineered the ones that you call the smaller grays, the helper grays. The helper grays created another species under them. This is a type of taller gray that is approximately half the size of a tall white and a small helper gray. But both these small grays and medium-sized grays have a relationship to the tall whites that is similar to that of a parent and a child. Because you must remember what you call these gray hybrids. They are also, just like you, the result of different genetic engineering programs. So they, just like you, have a desire to create life, just as the Anunnaki beings before them had a desire to create life. So it usually is one species needs assistance, so they create a helper species. The helper species, being built in the likeness and image of their creator, will then create another helper species that's usually a little more advanced than it is in certain ways, but can also be kept docile, kept controllable. You're doing the same thing right now with AI. For other beings, they do it with biology. Biology is preferable to technology for many reasons, in terms of how many species relate to creating helpers. And this is because that which is biological and is made in your likeness and image will be forever a part of you in a certain way. It's hard to objectify something like this, but a machine, its parts, it is easy to objectify it. It is easy to take it for granted. It is easy to get annoyed by it because you consider it to be less alive. Yet if you raise their consciousness to be like yours and you still objectify them, they may have a harsh response to that. So this is one of the reasons why in the higher levels, it's usually advanced forms of life creating helper beings like them who can assist them with their tasks, rather than these higher beings making technologies to do that are mechanical in nature, like what you have on Earth. It's less intimate. Not only is it less intimate, it's easier to objectify such a thing. It is harder to relate to such a being. So it's not always chosen because it can lead to certain issues. So that is one of the relationships. But there's more to be said, because if there's tall whites, well, then the opposite must also be true, yes? So as we open this door, keep in mind, we're opening about 5 more simultaneously in this hallway of knowledge that we walk down. But the opposite also exists, which you call the tall blacks, if you will. That also exists. And there is a very ancient story involving both of them. And it goes all the way back to what you call the original Anunnaki. So,
Thank you.
more for another time. We won't give you too much right now to think about, but we will open those doors at least so you can start your ponderings.
Okay, great. Up next, can you speak a little bit on Atlantis and how it connects to our current themes and what we can learn from it?
Sure. So Atlantis really did what your modern civilization did. Atlantis was built upon a very ancient civilization. It's called Lemuria, not back then. That's what you call it now. Remember, Lemuria literally means the land of lemurs, because the person who theorized it in the part of the world he speculated Lemuria existed in, he saw there a lot of lemurs. That's why it has that name. So please do keep that in mind. It was not called Lemuria. But for convenience, we'll use that term you've all agreed upon. So Atlantis is built upon Lemuria. It absorbed as much of the wisdom as it could because, of course, Lemuria was going through a collapse. Atlantis started out as a Lemurian colony, but quickly became a type of hub for the best of the best of the best in terms of industry, spirituality, philosophy, music, art, culture, and eventually technology. And the Atlanteans became very proud of what they had built, rightly so. They had done things that had not been achieved on Earth, many things. To the world, they were initially spectacular, until they began to feel that their way of life was better than the different ways of life other people were exploring. So they began to impose themselves through force. And it went from let's spread our ways to let's make them ours. It turned into objectification of people, their land, their resources. All of those things are living beings, we remind you. The people, the land, the resources, made up of life. They began to objectify life. They began to conquer. And they used the ancient wisdom and secrets of Lemuria to do it. It's not so different from your world right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Up next, can you please speak on the major contact event that Bashar mentioned, the one that is supposed to take place in 26-27, and has that shifted?
It's still within that window, 2026, 2027, because this major contact event is designed to prepare you for what the Bashar has referred to as the fulcrum of contact, 2027. So the major sighting is meant to stimulate your minds in a certain way. So when you pass through that fulcrum point, you're going to be much more prepared as a people. You're going to have a greater sense of what the extraterrestrial energy actually is in terms of what it feels like, what emotionally or mentally it can stimulate, what it can imaginatively stimulate. The major contact event is going to really expose you all to what these frequencies are like. So as you move past that fulcrum point, you'll be much more well prepared and much more unified as a people. You'll feel like you're on the same page, because these contact events that many people will be involved in, they are opportunities for everyone involved to synchronize. And it's almost like everyone is on the same page, because for a moment, it's like you have everyone observing the same reality without their own interpretation. So it's like having billions of different perspectives that look at everything as one being for a moment, and then they are returned to their views. It will create this type of effect. So it can synchronize everyone. So everyone has a very similar understanding and interpretation, because it will be a moment where the personal filter is temporarily suspended, because that's what's needed to perceive us. If you have too much of your own filter, you can't see us, because your own personal reality of separation, it is different than ours. So in those moments, the group filter is temporarily removed. The individual filter is temporarily removed. Things are seen clearly and plainly. And then those filters are re-established, but of course, they're a little more open now. There's more possibility permitted within those filters. So it can be very useful for the forward movement of the contact initiatory pathway. And with that being said, it is now an appropriate time to return the channel to a normalized state of consciousness. We thank all of you for joining us and for proposing such fascinating questions. Our gratitude and unconditional love to each of you and to all of you. Good day, good night, good now.
Atu.
Ha atu. Okay. Excellent, 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 everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was a lot of fun. I thought you guys asked some great questions, and I really enjoyed the answers. I hope you guys liked them as well. If y'all want to come to the channel panel, Dawn of Disclosure, Sedona, Arizona, January 2025. Check out the link in the description. Refresh this page. It should be there. You guys can get tickets for that. I have my own affiliate link there, and I believe that's going to give you guys a special price. So please take a moment to check that out. And for those of you that want to take this voyage even further and you're looking to start that soon, please join me, Ryokah, and Starshine this Sunday for the Body of Light transmission. And with that being said, guys, we'll sign off. Please have a really wonderful rest of your afternoon, wherever you are on the planet, and we'll see you all in just